Love after 60. He wants you badly, but won't say a word. Have you ever noticed how a man can want you badly, crave your presence, and think about you constantly, yet he still won't say a single word? You feel his energy. You sense the pull. The connection is undeniable. And yet, silence. No call. No message, no move. Why? Because his ego is louder than his desire. And here's the brutal truth many women discover after 60. Desire alone is never enough to make a man act. Attraction is powerful, yes, but inside him there's a battle. One side wants nothing more than to be near you, to talk to you, to claim you openly. The other side? It's terrified. It whispers, if you show her how much you care, you lose control. If you admit how badly you want her, you'll look weak. This is the game his ego plays. It convinces him that silence is safer than vulnerability, that control is more important than connection. And so even when he longs for you, he stays quiet. Not because he doesn't care, but because caring feels like a risk he doesn't know how to take. Hi, welcome back to my channel. It's Vernon again. In today's video, we're going to uncover 5 brutal truths about men that explain why he can want you desperately but still hold back. And more importantly, what this silence really means for love and intimacy after 60. Make sure to subscribe to my channel, Vernon After 60, and turn on notifications so you never miss new insights on relationships and connection at this stage of life. Now let's dive into the first truth and why his silence may be speaking louder than his words.
Number 1. The sanctuary of self-protection, fear of vulnerability. When a man is deeply attracted to you but remains silent, one of the key reasons is often a deep fear of vulnerability. As we age, especially after 60, many of us carry emotional scars from past relationships, losses, or unhealed wounds. This baggage creates an instinctive need for self-protection, an internal barrier that prevents full emotional openness, even when desire is strong. For men in this stage of life, vulnerability feels risky. Opening up means confronting past hurts, whether it's the pain of a previous marriage, the grief of losing a partner, or the fear of being rejected again. So even though he may be drawn to you, the thought of exposing his true feelings feels too raw, too exposing. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." Yet for men over 60 who find themselves powerfully drawn to a woman, this self-contained happiness suddenly feels insufficient. And that realization can be profound enough to create profound silence. Unlike younger men who might see rejection as a temporary setback, older men understand that this might be their last opportunity for profound love, making the stakes feel impossibly high. Research from Dr. Eli Finkel at Northwestern University shows that men over 60 often experience what psychologists call vulnerability hangover when they recognize their deep attraction to someone. Have you noticed a man who seems almost too careful around you, too respectful, too formal? His silence might not be rejection. It might be his way of protecting both of you from the vulnerability of admitting how much you've come to mean to him. And this protective silence often connects to our next profound pattern.
Number 2. The weight of experience. When past pain creates silence. Carl Jung
taught that everything that irritates us about others can lead to an understanding of ourselves. For men over 60, this understanding often includes painful awareness of how previous relationships ended, and this knowledge can create a silence that protects against repeating past mistakes. At 61, I had experienced a marriage that ended in bitter divorce, a long-term relationship that gradually dissolved into resentment, and several shorter connections that began with hope and ended with disappointment. After that, when I met Helen at their local library's book club, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: genuine excitement about spending time with another person. But instead of pursuing Helen actively, I became almost mysteriously present in her life. I would appear at the grocery store when she was shopping, offer to help with heavy items without being asked, remember details from conversations weeks earlier, and somehow always know when she might need assistance with her garden or household projects. Yet, I never directly expressed romantic interest. I wanted Helen desperately, but I also knew myself well enough to recognize the patterns that had destroyed my other relationships. I rushed things, I assumed too much, I let my enthusiasm override my judgment. With Helen, I was determined to be different, even if it meant staying silent about my feelings. My silence wasn't absence of interest, it was the ultimate expression of how much Helen mattered to me. In many cases, the silence isn't about lack of interest, it's about the fear of emotional re-entry, of allowing someone into his heart and risking being hurt once more. It's not that he doesn't want to share with you, it's that he's not sure if he's ready to face the potential vulnerability again. Past pain creates a barrier, and that barrier often shows up as silence, making him retreat into what feels safer. Have you ever found that past pain influences how someone expresses their feelings? Share your experience in the comments. It might help others understand and navigate similar situations. Understanding that past pain can shape his silence is key. But there's another powerful reason behind his quietness that often goes unnoticed. Let's explore the third reason why he might not be speaking up, and how it's tied to his own fear of losing control in the relationship.
Number 3, the reverence factor, when desire becomes sacred respect. As we grow older, we begin to see the depth of love and connection as something sacred, and this reverence can sometimes quiet his voice. For mature men who find themselves deeply attracted to a woman, this pull often creates not urgency, but a kind of sacred pause, silence born of awe rather than uncertainty. At this stage of life, a man has lived through enough to understand that true intimacy is about honoring the other person. If he is in love with you, his desire may go beyond physical attraction. He sees you not just as someone to be desired, but as someone to be revered. His silence could be his way of protecting the intimacy of your connection, keeping it in a space of honor and mutual respect. Sometimes this reverence can be so strong that it causes him to hold back, not wanting to push or rush anything. The idea of rushing intimacy or making it feel transactional doesn't align with his vision of what love should be. Something slow, intentional, and full of sacred respect. His silence is his way of keeping the connection pure, where every moment shared feels significant and meaningful. The ancient concept of courtly love from medieval literature understood this dynamic, the idea that true love elevates its object to such heights that direct pursuit becomes almost impossible. Is there a man who treats you with such careful respect that it almost feels like distance? His silence may be his way of honoring you as something precious rather than something to be possessed. Because this reverence often connects to our next crucial consideration.
Number 4. The legacy consideration. Protecting what matters most. When a man is deeply silent, especially as he grows older, part of that silence may stem from his desire to protect what matters most to him, his legacy. This isn't just about the material things he's accumulated over the years, but about the emotional and personal legacy he holds dear, such as his family, values, and the relationships he's built. After 60, a man may begin to reflect on his life's work, his relationships, and the way he wants to be remembered. His silence could be a way of protecting the vulnerability of his heart and the delicate balance of the life he's carefully crafted. He may fear that opening up emotionally or becoming too vulnerable in a new relationship could disrupt the stability he's worked so hard to establish. For example, he might worry about how a new relationship could affect his relationship with his children, his reputation, or his financial security. In this case, the silence is not a reflection of lack of interest. Rather, it's a form of protection, an attempt to shield the aspects of his life that are most precious to him. Research from the National Institute on Aging shows that men over 60 often experience what gerontologists call legacy anxiety when considering new relationships. Fear that romantic involvement will disrupt carefully constructed plans for inheritance, family harmony, and social identity. Share this video with someone you care about, a friend or family member who might also benefit from understanding the deeper reasons behind silence in relationships after 60. How the masculine code of honor often expresses itself through restraint rather than pursuit, creating silence that masks the deepest devotion, which we'll explore right this. Number 5. The masculine code. Honor through restraint. The ancient samurai code of Bushido taught that true strength is often demonstrated through restraint rather than action. For men over 60 who've lived long enough to understand the real consequences of words and actions, this principle often governs how they approach love, with silence that reflects not weakness, but the ultimate expression of masculine honor. One of the most powerful reasons for a man's silence, especially after 60, is his adherence to what I call the masculine code, an unspoken set of principles that guides his behavior, often rooted in honor, strength, and self-discipline. This code, though not always visible, influences how he navigates relationships and emotional intimacy. For many men, particularly those of a certain age, there is a deep respect for restraint. They believe in holding back as a sign of honor, not because they don't care, but because they feel it's important to protect the emotional space of those they love.
This is particularly true when it comes to respecting boundaries and avoiding pushing the relationship too quickly, especially when they sense a deep emotional connection. This restraint is often a form of protective silence. He may be holding back not out of fear or disinterest, but out of a desire to honor you, to avoid overwhelming you or making you feel rushed. For many men, love means letting things unfold naturally, with patience and integrity, rather than forcing the pace. In essence, his silence reflects a silent strength, where he's carefully considering how his actions and words will impact you and the relationship. As we reach the end of our exploration together, I want you to imagine something. What if every seemingly distant, reserved, or silent man in your life is actually struggling with feelings so profound that words feel inadequate to express them? The 5 reasons we've explored: self-protective vulnerability, experiential caution, reverent desire, legacy considerations, and honorable restraint. These aren't obstacles to love. They're evidence of love so deep and mature that it expresses itself through silence rather than speech, through actions rather than words, through patience rather than pressure. These men weren't silent because they didn't care. They were silent because they cared so profoundly that casual expression felt impossible. In mature love, silence often speaks louder than words. The man who treats you with careful respect, who shows up consistently without pressure, who remembers what matters to you, who protects your healing process, who honors your independence while making himself quietly available. This man may want you more desperately than anyone who's ever spoken words of love to you. Learning to recognize these silent signals could unlock the deepest love of your life with a man who's been loving you quietly, patiently, and profoundly all along. Notice who remembers your preferences, who anticipates your needs, who creates opportunities to be helpful without being asked, who treats you with a reverence that almost feels like distance. Trust your wisdom to read between the lines. Trust your experience to recognize depth over surface charm. And trust that love after 60 often whispers rather than shouts, shows rather than tells, and waits rather than rushes. If this video resonated with you, give it a like and share it with someone who might benefit from these insights on mature love. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly tips on relationships, love, and emotional connection after 60. Have you noticed the silent signals of love in your own relationships? Leave a comment. Your experience could help others understand the depth and beauty of love after 60. The man who wants you badly but won't speak may be offering you something more precious than words: the promise of love that honors who you are, respects where you've been, and cherishes what you've become. This is Vernon. Thank you for watching till now, and see you next time.